sorry, sorry. This is Scary Astral Things. This is Rick. Welcome to Astral Club. Before we get into it, just want to mention Patreon. If you'd like to support us on Patreon, we'd be glad to have you. It's always great, nice little community. All you have to do is go down to the description section and click the Patreon icon. Next up, astral projection lessons. If you'd like a lesson to learn how to astral project, be glad to work with you. All you have to do is go down to the description section and click on the email. Well, select the email and go ahead and ask me for more information. Okay. Scary astral things. Just like my lame, scary voice there at the beginning, it can be slightly annoying and a bit scary, especially to newer people. But I think we'll find at the end that we can deal with it. We can work through it, especially since if we're aware of what's going on, I think it makes it a lot easier to deal with these things. I'm going to be using Robert Bruce's Astral Dynamics as a source material for this. And it's interesting because this one section I haven't seen before. And I just kind of tripped it across when I was looking through the book. And I thought, well, this is certainly a good episode to have for the Halloween week type of thing. Oh, and by the way, on Saturday, there's going to be The Exorcism, where I get into a blow-by-blow description of what happened when I acted as an assistant at an exorcism. I know I mentioned it in brief before, but I found my notes from 45 years ago, and I had took really good notes. So you're going to go through the whole exorcism step by step, and you'll get to see what it was like. Okay, first up, he calls the first thing the dweller on the threshold. I've called it in the past a shadow man, and this is interesting just how close his experiences and his knowledge of this subject is to mine. I mean, they align almost 100% completely. He outlines the same thing. Now, he says that only about 1 in 20 people see these shadow men. He says, in fact, he's not one of the people who's seen it, although his mother did. He calls it basically, I mean, in essence, it's like a shadow too. You can call it, he calls it a dweller on the threshold. That sounds cooler, I'll be honest with you. I called it a shadow man. They manifest quite often as a humanoid shape, a black shadow, and it's there to scare you. Sometimes it may snarl or growl or giggle or laugh, and it menaces. He says he's never seen a report of it actually attacking anyone, and I can back that up. There's been situations where people report having a kind of tussling match if they go after the shadow man, but it's almost like they're fighting themselves. You know, it's like nobody has an advantage type of thing. And he says that when his mother encountered one, she just did the 23rd Psalm, and it went away. For those of you who may not be up in their Bible, the 23rd Psalm is the one that starts with, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." That one. It's a very powerful one, by the way, if you're a religious believer. And I know when I faced down the shadow man, I was just a kid at the time. And the first few times it did scare me. But then I just got fed up and I flipped it off and took off. And I've never seen it again. And it's interesting that he talks about pretty much the same thing. Bruce says, "My best advice is to be brave, march right up to it, glare at it, and as loudly as you can order it to F off. Then turn around, leave the area, totally ignoring it from then on." And I mean, that's pretty much what I did too. Although I just kind of, flipped it off and took off, but it's the same type of thing. The basic thing here is don't give it power by being afraid of it. It's nothing but a shadow. It's an annoyance on the astral plane, and it dwells in the lower astral. And for some reason, it picks certain people out. I mean, you may not even be one of the people who ever see it. I mean, according to Bruce, it's only about 1 in 20. I don't know if it's that rare, but it's definitely not everybody sees it. although I get regular reports of people who do. The main thing is understand it's just a shadow. It's like watching a Halloween movie. It might be scary, but it's just images projected on a screen. And this is nothing but a shadow projected on the lower astral. It can't harm you. So merely give it no respect and continue on your journey. And if you're like me, you'll never see the darn thing again. He then talks about other things, which he calls astral noises and other things that go bump in the night. Astral noises, now this is something that I think has been virtually reported by everyone who's ever astral projected at one time or another. I know when I used to project as a kid, I would often hear radio noises as I was leaving my body. Occasionally, I would also hear fragments of conversation, sometimes other weird things. Bruce talks about when people, during their exit, that they hear scary voices, sometimes things like chains dragging, sinister giggling, muttering, evil laughter, nasty growling, snarling. Now, these sounds can be intimidating, sure, but he says they're a type of audio illusion. And I think I agree to a certain extent. Probably a lot of it has to do with one's definition of illusion. I believe they have a reality in a certain sense, but the bottom line is you should still pay them the same amount of respect, which is, i.e., nothing. He then goes on to say they have no substance and are therefore not a threat. He says they are a big distraction, and they can be to new people. I've had new people who just were scared out of their wits because they were confronted with the shadow man, or they heard some evil laughter or what have you, and it just spooked the heck out of them. But you know what? These things will always stop, and if you cease to pay attention, it goes away. And once again, he says, and I would agree, all these types of noises and what have you are much more often reported by new projectors. I don't know that I don't hear any of this stuff anymore. It's just I pay it no mind. When I leave my body, I have a singular purpose as to where I want to go. So I literally ignore anything that's extraneous. And part of your technique to sharpen your will should be your ability to focus your will on your end goal, not letting any extraneous input to distract you from achieving your end goal. And he goes on to say strange noises are often a prelude to OBE, or out-of-the-body experiences. I always prefer astral projection, same thing. Anyway, so they're actually a good sign. It means you're right on the verge of leaving your body. So don't freak out. That's actually something that's good. And it's probably some sort of symptom of the beginning of your astral projection. Remember, you're becoming a lot more sensitive to a wide variety of vibrations as you begin to astral project. So these things, illusionary as they may be, have always been there. It's just that you don't have the radio receiver, normally, to tune them in. But as you increase your psychic abilities with astral projection, now all of a sudden you have the ability to tune into these many frequencies. Now that can be good because it improves your astral abilities. Like being able to use telepathy, for instance, being able to scan other folks, which, I have been able to sharpen after the many thousands of projections that I've had. But they can also be, let's face it, the shadow side is a distraction. So you can't allow these things to distract you from your ongoing astral projection improvement policies and functions. Now, these noises can vary enormously. Bruce goes on to talk about they can be loud and incredibly real. He says you may hear bells ringing, sirens wailing. I've heard that myself. Once again, he talks about the chains again. I think that's very interesting. Around Christmas, I love to watch Charles Dickens, and you wear the chains forged in life. Jacob Marley talking to Scrooge. But hey, I mean, these things sometimes come from somewhere, don't they? So that's interesting. I wonder if that's some sort of an English fairy tale about spirits dragging chains. Interesting. He then goes on to talk about other things like sounds like somebody's smashing a sledgehammer, which is, I guess, where the bump in the night comes from. He says other people talk about racing noises, engine noises, chainsaws, knocking and banging on your bedroom door. Those are all also elements of noisy ghosts as well. Even the sounds of children playing and laughing or crying. I have seen and heard children playing as well. However, they're not really children. They're other types of entities that I don't want to get into here. Just keep your distance from them. Once again, that's where flying comes in. These aren't really children. But you can certainly hear these types of things. So, bottom line is try not to pay attention to this kind of stuff. Lastly, he gets into astral voices, and I know I've had people come to me about this. He talks about loud and aggressive astral voices that may order you, sometimes by name, to stop doing what you're doing and return to your body immediately. I've had people come to me about that, and I've told them the same thing I've been telling them: ignore those voices. I don't know exactly what their origin is, but they're just meant to distract, and they're nothing that you have to pay attention to. He then goes on to talk about you may hear voices talking to one another, loudly discussing you, criticizing your stupidity for trying to leave your body, trying to be intimidating, and telling you that astral projection is a very dangerous thing to do. Look at him. He doesn't know anything. What the hell is he up to? Look at what he's doing. How stupid. All this negative input is just that. It's negative input. I don't really care where the origin is, and I don't think Bruce cared about it either, because he doesn't get into it. Because once again, it's nothing but a distraction. He does get into a couple possible causes for astral noises, which may be of interest to some people. Quite frankly, I don't give a damn myself. But hey, some people might be interested. He says one might be accidental, and this could be very true. He talks about that it's possible that it's natural sounds or voices that are picked up due to heightened senses of your astral double. And he gets into talking about how the nature of these noises may suggest that maybe it's actually going on somewhere in the physical world, and that you pick up little snippets of these real conversations in the physical, or maybe you're picking up snippets of some conversation that has nothing to do with you. Let's talk about main character syndrome here. It may have nothing to do with you, and you just pick it up as a snippet, and then you jump to all kinds of different conclusions. Basically, simple astral noises and voices, when you hear them, chances are it may not even be directed to you. It may just be something that you're just picking up. Like, in the old days when you would go through radio stations, you would sometimes get little snippets from stations that you can't quite tune into. And then secondly, he talks about deliberate, which is another possibility is that these astral noises are deliberately produced and telepathically aimed at projectors by a low order of astral wildlife. And I agree that is probably also a possibility. There's a wide variety of lower order astral wildlife. We've talked about some of it, but there can be quite a bit of these things. There can be elementals, there can be fairies, nature spirits, little things that you might call elves or gnomes, as well as, of course, you got your earthbound entities that are held to, that lower section of the astral plane based on their physical lusts and drug addictions and emotions such as hate and envy, greed. And, these voices can be very cleverly designed as an audio illusion. They can be a sneaky distraction, cause you to worry or cause you to go back into your body. It's just a manifestation of the malice of these, quite frankly, poor astral spirits of a very low order. It goes along with the whole misery loves company kind of thing. It's like, well, I feel miserable, so I'll feel better if I know you feel miserable as well. It's just trickery and deceit, and try not to dwell upon it. Basically, how do you deal with this stuff? Well, I mean, if you haven't gotten the clue so far, you ignore it. Simply ignore it. You've got your goal. Get busy on it. Don't allow these things to affect you. Now, I just want to mention a couple of other things too that people have reported to me, and I've reported it myself. There's other things like clutching hands and other annoyances. Some people may feel that they're being grabbed or being held down. And you may feel, or you may see rather, scary faces. And, listen, I understand these things can be scaring. I have felt the hands thing myself. And it can take a little bit of concentration to ignore it. Just understand that this is just another type of sensory illusion, and it should be ignored. I have never encountered myself or from any report from anyone who ever said that they suffered any sort of ill results from ignoring these particular sensory apparitions. Understand that they're an annoyance. And they're just something that you just have to be aware of and try to ignore it to the best of your ability. Lastly, just want to talk about astral hitchhikers. I think I may have mentioned this once, but this seems to be a good place to mention it. I recall once when I was a teenager, I had just left my house. For some reason, I would always fly through the picture window, but for some reason I decided to go out the first floor door instead. And as I was walking down the steps, this little gnome kind of thing hopped on my back. And I reached around and grabbed it and threw it off my back. And I remember it looked at me like, what are you doing? As if it had a right to be there. And I just told it that it should go away and I want nothing to do with it. And then I flew off. These little hitchhikers, I think they're used to riding on physical people. And I think they're also used to riding on folks who are sleepwalkers, who are astral projecting and who are unconscious. And so they're used to just taking a ride, taking a piggyback ride. They're annoying, but they're not harmful. So, ask them to leave. Tell them to come back if and when you summon them, and don't be afraid to force them off of you. Bottom line, though, is other than annoyance, once again, there's really no actual hostile ability there that could be in any way damaging. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed that little dissertation on various and sundry astral things that go bump in the night. I hope you have a great Halloween. And don't forget, Saturday at 9 a.m., there's going to be the exorcism episode where you get to be with me on that actual exorcism and what I observed and what happened in a blow-by-blow type of situation. I hope you enjoy it. At any rate, please like if you feel like doing so, share and subscribe. Love your comments and questions. Please let me know. Have you experienced any of these phenomena? If so, how did you deal with it? I think everybody can benefit from your experiences. So please do so. At any rate, this is Rick, and I will see you on the astral plane.